Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Itachi gives Naruto his Sharingan, part 3. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Sasuke paced back and forth in the room, eyes alert in paranoia, waiting nervously for the enemy to strike. Dazuna had taken them back to his house to rest up, since both Kakashi and Naruto were passed out from chakra. Honestly didn't think he'd have it in him to mess with the likes of Zabuza or even the Hunter Nin right now, and that in itself was no easy feat to admit. Kiba had stayed up, and they had taken turns on watch, where one would stay up for 12 hours, making sure everything was okay, and now Sasuke had relieved him of duty, and it had taken about 5 minutes for Kiba to fall sound asleep. Not that Sasuke could blame him, he himself had been tired when Kiba had first taken watch. The combination of all the stress and tension the battle with Zabuza had left him exhausted, physically and emotionally. He had faced a lot of things on that mission he hadn't wanted to admit to himself, even if they had been nagging away at the recesses of his mind for quite some time now. All this time he had honestly thought he'd been as strong as Naruto, or at least close enough, but Naruto had disproved that theory easily yesterday. It had nothing to do with physical strength. When it came to their abilities, as shinobis, they were pretty even, but he had lacked courage yesterday, as Zabuza leaked out all that killer intent. He could only stand there dumbfounded, and attempt to protect Zabuza, though his traitorous mind had begged for him to kill himself, before Zabuza could get to him. He, Uchiha Sasuke, had nearly killed himself because Zabuza had been on a different level. That man really was the Akuma no Kiri, the demon of the mist. All he could do was just stand there, one hand holding a kunai, as his knees had buckled, and his bladder threatened to lose control in his terror. But not Naruto. Knowing they were in a tight jam, Naruto had thrown himself into the fight when it had seemed hopeless. Kakashi had been disabled for a second, unable to fight, and Naruto had thrown himself in the fray, unaware that the swordsman was an A-rank missing nin. Sasuke had done no such thing. He had panicked and nearly wet himself. What was it that made Naruto so different? He had almost killed him. Right after he began leaking that foul demonic chakra, he had charged up an A-rank technique, and almost killed the demon of the mist with the Chidori. Sasuke had barely gotten control over his B-rank technique, and Naruto had nearly killed a missing nin Kakashi hadn't been able to beat. Disgusted with himself, he walked all over the house over and over again, forcing himself to stay awake. To be the protector his comrades needed him to be. Both Naruto and Kakashi had been turning in their sleep, each of them mumbling things that only they could decipher. Sasuke figured it would take them about another day of resting before they actually got up, and all chakra exhaustion was nothing to play around with. So until then, he'd watch, he'd protect them from any enemy, because that was the right thing to do. And one day, he'd save his brother. He'd be strong for him, and help him carry the burden that he shouldn't have had to carry. That was the job of him. Sasuke himself couldn't imagine even now, putting the safety of his village before family, and wiping the Uchihas out. That had been Itachi's burden, and he himself had been Sasuke's age when he did it. So that meant he was weak, that he wasn't strong enough because he wouldn't have been able to carry that cross. Such a cross would have been too heavy to shoulder, but he'd make it. He'd become even stronger than Itachi, he'd save him. He'd redeem his older brother from the shame he had taken upon himself. Until then he'd never die. Hours passed, and it was morning again. Hell, he hadn't even noticed. Had he fallen asleep? Or had he been so in the zone that he hadn't noticed the sands of time slowly ebb away from the beach that was life? There was a slow creak, and his hand flew to his kunai pouch on its own volition, and had been about to throw it, until he saw Azuna's daughter Tsunami peeking out from the door. Sasuke-kun, have you been up all night? Tsunami asked, her voice full of concern, her eyes dark brown with worry. He grunted out, nodding. Removing his hand from his kunai pouch, he stood up off the wooden floor. Would you like me to make you some breakfast? She asked, stepping into the room. Sasuke shrugged indifferently, and strode over to the door, and stepped out. If you want to, he called out, before striding over to the guest room in which his comrades were fast asleep. Kiba was asleep with Akamaru curled in his coat against his neck. Kakashi was a living corpse, looking exactly like his name, scarecrow-like in his sleep, and not moving. Naruto was squirming about, shivering. Sasuke whispered. Please help me, they're trying to kill me, please Sasuke, I'm not Kyuubi. Reacting on instinct only, Sasuke walked over to Naruto's side, and grabbed the lapels of shirt, and shook him softly. Wake up Naruto, it's just a nightmare. Sasuke said softly, compassionate eyes full of sadness and regret, as he could imagine what Naruto's dreams were like. Full of terror, always on the run, as heartless villagers terrorized him for being the container of the Kyuubi. How had he pushed through? How had he not killed them, or even unleashed the Kyuubi against Konoha? Please not the eyes. Naruto sobbed out, before giving a scream full of terror and pain. Wake up. Sasuke yelled out, shaking his best friend. Naruto shot up off the bed, and Sasuke stared into blood-red eyes, three-pointed shuriken spinning madly in Naruto's eyes, as Naruto held on to Sasuke, tears welling up in his eyes. Sasuke, Naruto cried out, shaking. It's alright, dope. Sasuke whispered gently, before pulling his best friend up to his feet. You alright? Sasuke asked genuinely. Yeah, I'm alright. Naruto replied, before running his arm to his eyes to cover up his tears. Drying his tears, Sasuke now stared into Naruto's green eyes, and the change was immediate. The nearly 13-year-old boy in front of him was a killer. Green eyes without emotion, shutting away the pain his dreams had revealed. I'm going training. Naruto bit off harshly, before turning and heading out of the room. Wait, don't you want some breakfast? Sasuke called out. Naruto didn't reply, instead he ignored him, something he never did. Shrugging away the voice that nagged in his mind, demanding that he chase his best friend, Sasuke instead walked over to Kiba and shook him gently. Hey. Kiba woke with a growl, as well as Akamaru. What is it? Time to eat, Mud. Sasuke replied before leaving the room. Kiba fully awoke and remembered what Sasuke just called him. Team, I'm not a fucking Mud. He barked out, and Akamaru had to agree with a small yip. Your name chooses to disagree, Inuzuka. Sasuke called out from the kitchen. Whatever, fanboy. Her body racked with exhaustion, laid back on the grass next to Shikamaru and Chaoji. After training, the two best friends would watch the clouds from a bench, but not today. I worked them extra hard since the Chunin exams were only a month away, and he wanted to make sure he had a team that could ultimately win the Chunin exams and beat Kakashi. Though Ino knew that was next to impossible. So rather than follow her comrades to the usual bench or go home and help her parents with the flower shop, Ino plopped down next to them, watching the clouds move and forcing her thoughts on Naruto. Her somewhat of a boyfriend. Her parents didn't really approve of him, simply put because he was the Kyuubi boy, a container for the powerful beast. They knew he wasn't a demon, but they also knew of the blind hate the villagers and shinobi held for him, and didn't want that hate averted over to their daughter. After all, they took his eyesight. How much did you have to hate a person, not a child, to rob them of one of their senses? For a shinobi of Konoha had to risk the ire of the Sandaime, and take a kunai, and bury them into a blue-eyed boy's eye sockets. Had it not been for the Konoha Medical Corps, Naruto would have remained eyeless and sightless. Now, he was one of the last four wielders of the Sharingan. She remembered their first date. She had asked him, of course, simply because at the time, he didn't want anything to do with her. He was turning girls down left and right indiscriminately. He even turned down Hyuga Hinata for a second date. Yet she remained determined, passionate about her crush, until one day she dragged him over to Ichiraku and offered to pay. They had talked for hours upon hours, and in the end, she managed to sneak a kiss out of him, much to the green-eyed boy's surprise. And slowly, but steadily, the two began going out. They hadn't done much, but went out on dates, and made out, but it was enough for her. She knew she was only a preteen, and way too young for sex, but she'd give it to him, if only he asked. His only response was for them to wait until they were 15. She didn't know of too many guys that would have done that. Kiba sure as hell wouldn't. That stupid mud had asked her out a year ago, and tried to get in her pants even then. Yet Naruto was patient, a blonde enigma who didn't realize how he affected and touched people. Jade eyes swirling round in his sockets in paranoia, too afraid to let anyone get too close, afraid to lose the very essence of life. She loved him, and she knew it, but he didn't. She'd just have to make sure he understood that when he returned from Nami. Naruto sneezed a few times back to back. Someone must be talking about me, he thought to himself, before scanning the area for enemies. Now Yugito stared at the blonde boy in her view. Golden amber-like eyes peered at him with curiosity. What could she say? Curiosity killed the cat. She was 14, of Kumagakure, and the sole container for the Nibi no Nekomata. Her village had believed that being a Jinchuruki was a blessing, a human blessed with the powers of a powerful deity. Spoiled and arrogant, she had become, on a simple mission to kill Momochi's abuser, and collect the bounty for it. Yet a team from Konoha was interfering in her business, so she had followed them, like a predatory cat waiting, hidden from view, waiting for the moment to strike. She followed them, because the trail to Zabuza had gotten cold, so these stupid Konoha fucks probably had the information she needed. But for some reason she couldn't budge off the branch she was currently hiding on. The Nibi sealed away inside her, beckoned her to stay still, and not move the instant she laid eyes on the blonde kid. Probably a newbie genin from her estimation, yet there was something hidden about him, something foul and evil pouring off him in waves. She had walked in on the aftermath of the first fight against Zabuza, and it lingered in the air like a foul stench, reeking and polluting the air suspiciously. Following the trail of chakra, she stumbled into a crappy bunch of genins, whose Jounin sensei apparently had gotten the shit kicked out of him. Before she could formulate a plan on how to carry out her mission, a whizzing sound sliced through air, as a kunai grazed her cheek, her blood tainting the air. Jumping from the tree and into the clearing, she launched another kunai to block an incoming one that would have penetrated her chest and possibly killed her. Kunais clashed with a resonating crack, and she landed on some soft dirt before golden eyes narrowed in anger to the attack. The blonde genin stared at her, a smirk rising to his face, his eyes sparkling in predatory delight. So, who are you, and why are you watching me? He asked gently, before his voice took a deeper baritone. Speak up, or I won't hesitate to kill you. Cocky isn't he? She thought to herself. Wiping the blood on her cheek, her lips pursed into a bitter scowl involuntarily. Who do you think you are? She asked, before reaching for her kunai purse, only to find another kunai flying at her face. I wouldn't do that if I were you. The genin responded, sighing softly, as if ambushes were a daily occurrence. Who the fuck are you? He demanded angrily. Yugito, it's only polite for you to give your own name, Genin-san. She retorted, before giving him a smug smile of her own. He stared at her headband, his sharp gaze leaving an undesirable feeling coursing through her. So those old bastards didn't send you to kill me then, huh? I'm Uzumaki Naruto, and I suggest you run away now. Minato-sensei Kakashi called out in his sleep to Phantom's long past. Obito had died in a battle against a Wagaker, Minato had died sealing the Kyuubi, and Rin, she disappeared after the Yandame's death. Chances were she was probably dead now too. Kakashi held no forsaken chance of hope that his teammate was still alive. Turning over in the small mattress, the Cyclops opened up one bleary eye, nearly wincing in pain, as it took in all the sunlight. Kuzo whispered incoherently, before yawning, closing his single visible eye, and trying to go back to sleep. Every day he'd been plagued with his failings, on how he failed everybody, and it never ceased. So to make up for it, he'd stare at that hunk of rock called Hero's Memorial Stone, and prayed to Kami that the deity would forgive him for his sins, his failures, and his blind arrogance that had caused pain across numerous families. Staring at the rock from sunrise, he would grow damp from absolution, as memories flooded him constantly, reminding him of why he was the single survivor of Team Namikaze. He'd been a coward, an arrogant coward. He refused to save Rin when she needed him, and was too cowardly to face the Kyuubi. Perhaps if he'd done more than quiver like a 12-year-old, his sensei wouldn't have died. He'd be alive right now, and force the villagers and people to see that his son was not the Kyuubi, but its container. Those teams allowed their hatred to run wild, converting an innocent 9-year-old into a ruthless shinobi, hardened by his misery and suffering, that same hatred flowing wickedly amongst his veins. But perhaps it wasn't too late to save that 9-year-old boy who died miserably, dying to make way for a new child, a child born among hate. His hatred was burning brightly, threatening to destroy Konohagakure no Sato with a flash of embers. If anyone should be running its Boy Yugito challenge, before taking an offensive stance. Ignoring her quip, the boy took an offensive stance as well, with his knees slightly bent, ready to spring into action at any moment. Please do not insult me by calling me boy, Yugi-chan. Naruto replied, but the quip was cut short, as an angry blonde kunoichi slammed into his shoulder first, nearly taking the breath out of him, as the two were sent rolling into the grass. How is she that fast? I didn't even see her, Naruto thought, as he willed himself back to his feet, and stared the kunoichi down. Whoever she is, she's strong. Don't ever call me Yugi-chan again. She yelled coarsely at him, before baring her fangs. Naruto opened his mouth, and bared his at her, before forming his hand in the ram hand seal. Sharingan. He whispered, before his eyes turned blood red with two spinning around in it. He began charging up his chakra, the air was dense with it, before his gaze lingered on her face once more, then he phased out of view, before reappearing in front of her, slamming his elbow in her face. Jerking her head back, causing her to lose sight of him temporarily. Scowling to herself for being cocky, the blonde kunoichi braced herself for another blow, and it came, as Naruto reappeared behind her, ramming his knee into the small of her spine, sending her shooting forward, her eyes closed in pain. Naruto charged again, and was about to land a vicious spinning heel kick to her face when flames shot out of Yugito's, and covered her body with it, surrounding herself in a tight globe of blue flames. Naruto's foot collided with her globe barrier, and nearly yelped, as his feet and sandals were burned from the intense fire. Cursing himself, he backs away, leaping with chakra. Kuzo. He nearly whispered, as he looked for a way to attack Yugito without getting burned. It didn't look possible, as she was emanating fire from each of her pores, blue flames licking at her skin without burning her. It seemed to be some kind of offense, and defense at the same time, which would only make this fight a bit harder. Staring at her with his Sharingan, he noted the legs were the weakest area for him to attack, the fire only covered her to about mid-thigh. Naruto pulled out a kunai, and tied an explosive note around it, before launching it at the pretty kunoichi. Did I just call her pretty in my head? Naruto thought, and the kunai was inches from reaching her face, but then a palm made of blue flames, and chakra extended from her hands, and batted at it, the blue flames lighting up the note before it exploded in a swirl of smoke. Giving him all the time he needed. See, the kunai was just a diversion, it wasn't the actual attack, he just needed her to be blinded for a second to give him time to do what he needed. Charging up electricity to his hands, Naruto phased out of view again. Yugito was fast, she should be able to see him. The little son of a Yugito was interrupted, as her hands shot out of the earth, and grabbed the back of her calves, holding her in place. Putting her hands together in a ram seal, she began generating chakra rapidly, and focusing it to her feet, before bending her knees slightly, and launching herself in the air, ripping Naruto out of the ground. Naruto let go of her, just in time, as she backflipped, landed, and got through his defenses with a sharp kick to his face, sending him flying backwards. Naruto tried to twist himself in midair, but it was too late, as Yugito grabbed him, and slammed him face first into a tree. Blood trickled down gently from his forehead, to form a small rivulet that slowly trickled down his eyes and nose, then slowing down past his lips. His face was racked with pain, and he slowly tried to get up, but a kick to his ribs cut him short, as he flew backwards, spittle flying from his mouth. "You bitch," Naruto groaned, as he slammed into another tree, knocking it down. "You regret calling me that, Naruto-kun," she called out to him, before running through a set of hand seals, Kaden. "The Kakyu no Jutsu," she yelled before arching back, and gathering up the chakra in her lungs, then bending forward, and blowing out a large fireball that vaulted towards him before slamming into him. Naruto screamed, as he was being burned alive. Yugito watched him smugly, before a sharp blow to her head sent her spinning. What the fuck? Turning around, she saw it was Naruto, with no burn marks whatsoever. Curious, she stared back at the spot the fireball was burning, and there was a Naruto clone. "Cage Bunshin?" Yugito asked him. Naruto responded with a kick to her jaw, nearly dislocating it, as she crashed into the dirt. "Nope, a simple old Bunshin. Water splash," Naruto replied, before launching a suiton at her, small in size. It did nothing, but wet her, coating her in water. "That was it," Yugito said. "That's all it was supposed to be," Naruto replied. Yugito frowned, trying to think of why he would use such an ineffective suiton. "By the way, Yugi-chan, I'm a Cage Bunshin," Naruto replied, but popped into a cloud of smoke. Yugito's eyes widened, but it was too late. "Raiden. Shockwave no Jutsu," Naruto bellowed, behind her a couple yards, slamming his hands to the ground, and lightning began to arc up from it, and launch towards her. That's what the suiton was for, she thought, realizing that this Raiden attack, combined with her already drenched self, could either kill her or incapacitate her. Neither one was an option, she realized. She couldn't fail her mission, she never failed one before, and she wasn't starting now. "Hey Nibi, please give me some chakra. If you don't, we'll both die. I don't need too much, just enough to beat this kid," she begged, hoping the Nibi would be compliant. Baby's only response was a grunt, before the seal on her stomach twitched. The twin arcs of lightning collided, then ricocheted back at Naruto. "What the fuck?" Naruto asked, moving out of harm's way with the Kawarimi. Blood red eyes focused on the area that Yugito had been at, spinning wildly in order to try to track her movements. Suddenly in her place was a large cat, slightly bigger than Yugito herself. Naruto realized that the cat's shape was chakra, and if the vivid blue color was any indication, as well, it was probably hot. Staring harder, he saw Yugito in the middle of the chakra, on all fours, and one fire blue tail coming out by the rear. "She's like me," Naruto whispered, before dodging a fireball the cat fired at him. Suddenly he remembered something, from just recently, something he copied with his Sharingan. Dodging fireball after fireball, Naruto ran through hand seals, and his fingers grew blue. He was maybe 2 yards from the cat, when his paw knocked him back a few feet. Using all his chakra control, he kept hold of the attack, standing up, and charging again, leaping over another fireball, and shining in front of Yugito, who stood up to full height to attack. But not before Naruto slammed his fingers into her gut. The sealing did as it was supposed to, effectively cutting off the chakra from whatever kami forsaken happened to be sealed within Yugito. Yugito snarled loudly, her reserves drained and cut off from the yokai, before her eyes closed, and she fell over unconscious, her face slamming harshly against the dirt. "Let's hope I did that right," Naruto thought, stumbling around for a second, his body tired from the battle. He really wanted nothing more than to sleep right about now. Bending down, he picked the vicious Kunoichi up, and heaved her onto his shoulder before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. They arrived at Tazuna's house 15 minutes later, and after surprising Tsunami, who had been cooking in the kitchen, he stepped into her house, and carried Yugito over to the room he'd woken up in. Kakashi was still passed out, and Sasuke and Kiba appeared to be gone, most likely protecting Tazuna at the bridge. Pulling a lengthy bit of ninja wire, he wrapped it around her, binding her arms to her side. As an extra precaution, Naruto strategically placed chakra-reactive explosive seals on her body. One on her forehead, one on her jugular, and another on her sternum. She already had another 2 on her. Naruto had placed those on the back of her ankles during the fight, when he used the inner decapitation, knowing damn well she wouldn't feel him there. But those reacted to his chakra specifically. She was going to be pissed at him when she awoke, not that Naruto cared. His body was littered with 2nd and 3rd degree burns from whatever the fuck fire she was putting out. After making sure she was properly bonded and secured, Naruto left the room, and headed up towards the kitchen where Tsunami was cooking. "Tsunami-san, if you don't mind, could you tell me where the bathroom is?" Naruto asked gently, before placing a hand on the back of his head sheepishly, giving her a fox-like smile. "Please, just call me Tsunami. Just head up those stairs if you want to get to the bathroom," she said, pointing over to her left to where there was a staircase. "It's the least I can do for saving my father. If you need anything else, let me know." Tsunami said softly, giving the young nin an appreciative smile. Hi. Naruto nodded, not used to so much kindness from strangers, though his face lit up in a blush. Tsunami laughed warmly, before shooting him out of the kitchen. Naruto headed up the steps, and into the bathroom where he took a good look at himself. His face wasn't too bad, except for the swelling and dried blood that was caked there. His torso was what really hurt. The fight had been far from epic, nearly anticlimactic, but it had taken its toll on him. Biju chakra was especially dangerous to humans, and her fire was no different. Yet he had hesitated to kill her several times over. He hadn't activated the explosive notes, which probably would have blown her legs off, and there had been opportunities to kill her, yet he hadn't. Was he going soft again? He had worked so hard to build a wall between him and other people, and no one besides Sasuke and Kakashi Naisen had gotten through. He was cool with Kiba, but didn't really know the Inuzuka, but everyone else had been shut out. Even the Sandane, one of his most precious people in the world, had been shut out for his deception and reluctance to help the son of the Yondaime when he'd been in need. Yet even before he realized Yugito was he'd already been soft on her, despite her viciousness. What was she fighting for? He knew who he was Uzumaki Naruto, the son of a madman patriot who had sealed the greatest of Bijus in him, believing the village would adopt him and love him. He was hated by all, and loved by few, and no longer fought for recognition, for a childish dream of becoming Hokage, the village leader. He fought for survival. That's what made him vicious, because the hatred and contempt many had misplaced on him now ran through his blood. He wanted to make them pay, he wanted to watch Konoha burn. What a sight it would be for him to parade through the streets and slaughter them indiscriminately, with full coherence. Yet that would make him the demon they claimed he was. For so long he fought for his identity, as just Uzumaki Naruto, the container. Did he even fucking care anymore? Lately his lines of right and wrong seemed to blur into one, and nearly everything was in his gray zone. Killing didn't bother him, but becoming the Kyuubi did. Despite his hate for Konoha, he still hated Kyuubi that much more. Despite his hatred of the Yondaime, his hatred for the king of Bijus was so much more extensive. His hatred for it was even more potent than the villagers. Because if that big, stinking son of a bitch hadn't attacked Konoha and killed so many people, his idiot father wouldn't have had to seal it within him, and maybe he could have lived the life he deserved. He spent the next hour cleaning himself, jumping in the shower to wash the blood and grime off his body. After assuring himself that he was clean, he hopped out of the shower and unsealed a scroll that had a white guy outfit he sometimes used for training. Jumping into the white guy, he put his black shinobi sandals on and tied his aid around his neck. The sleeves were cut off on the guy, as well as the bottom of the pants, since they'd been too long when he pulled them out of a dumpster, giving the guy a rugged, dangerous look to it. Leaving his spiky hair wet, he headed downstairs, and blushed again when he saw the look he was getting from Tsunami. Naruto-kun, if you didn't have that cut across your face or that bad swelling, I'd probably force you into marriage. Tsunami jokes, before walking up to Naruto and ruffling his still wet hair. I love your hair, it's so soft and bright. In a couple of years, you just might have to return to Nami no Kuni. Tsunami continued teasing, before letting Naruto go, who was scowling, his whiskers trembling from pleasure. Stop that, Tsunami-chan, you shouldn't just like that. Naruto said, still scowling, though it was a pretense. Tsunami went back to cooking before calling out to Naruto. Who says I'm jesting? The thought alone was enough to get a small nosebleed out of Naruto, who wiped it off quickly before she could notice. Whatever. Naruto grumbled back at her, before exiting the kitchen, and headed back towards the guest's bedroom. To his surprise, Yugito was awake and struggling, scowling at him once he entered the room. Let me go, you bastard. No thanks, kitty, we got to talk. Naruto growled the last portion out before walking over to Yugito. She squirmed weakly against her bonds. Baby, I suggest you don't use chakra, lest you want to blow yourself up, Naruto said, donning an impish grin. Kuzo. Yugito cursed. Yugito's lips curled into a sneer, refusing to reply. Naruto sighed then shrugged, sitting in front of her cross-legged. I'm going to get an answer out of you, one way or another, so you might, as well, give up on whatever power trip you're on. Naruto spoke, folding his arms across his chest. Yugito arched a delicate eyebrow at him, before lowering her eyes down to her body, completely strapped with paper bombs and seals. Son of a bitch, she cursed at him, angry at her predicament. If she set the bombs off, she doubted even the Nibi no Nekomata could even heal her. One burst of chakra from me, and boom. So I suggest you fucking comply with my each demand, Naruto replied, his voice dripping with vehemence. How do you know what I am? In fact, how did you even beat me in my tailed state? Yugito demanded harshly, growling in anger. Before she could continue her rant, Naruto sprung into attack, yanking a kunai, and pushing the cold steel blade against Yugito's jugular, whiskers quivering in rage. Let me make something clear, Yugi-chan, I make the demands here, not you. As for why I was able to beat you, for one, I'm, as well. Naruto spoke softly, belying the sadness with anger. Yugito asked softly, not wanting to piss off her captor. Yeah, I'm the container for the Kyuubi no Kitsune, thanks to my father anyway. Naruto revealed gently, calming down, and removing the kunai from her neck. How do you become a demon? Naruto continued. I'm just a container for the two-tailed. Why would you think I'm a demon? Container, demon, same thing. The instant that foul demon was sealed in you, you became one, whether you accept it or not. Naruto spoke regretfully, standing up to walk to the window and stare out to the ocean view. I'm not a demon, Yugito protested. You never answered my question, Yugito. Naruto pointed out flatly. In Kamagakure it is considered an honor to house a demon, people worship us, and the ability is passed on through families of the Raikages. My father was the Yondaime Raikage, and the previous one had been too old, so, as a welcoming gift to the Raikage, they gave me the honor of being the container. Yugito explained. It's an honor to be a container in Kumo. All my life I've been hated and spat upon for having this demon sealed within me, and you've had it so easy in Kumo they took my eyes, ripped them clean out my sockets while you were worshipped. Yugito was silenced by his confession. She had never assumed to think of other containers around the elemental nations. Kumo had another once, the Raikage's brother housed the Hachibi, but she never honestly thought there were others besides them. She never asked, instead she reveled in the attention given to her. Though the Raikage's brother had it worse than she had, his treatment had never been anywhere as bad as the blonde brat in front of her. You have no idea how much I hate my father right now. Your father. He was the one who sealed that foul beast in me. He condemned me to a life full of hate, of solitude. I never knew for the longest 9 years I sought to make people recognize me, to understand what I did that was so bad that no one wanted to play with me, no one sold me clothes. Yet it wasn't the same for you. What makes Konoha so different? We're generally viewed as the good guys, yet they terrorized a 9-year-old until he hated life, when all he wanted to do was protect him. But who protected him? Naruto was silent, before green eyes lit up with a cruel smirk, and turned to Yugito. I wonder how Kumo would take it if I blew up there right now. You're their idol, a god in their eyes. If I blew you up, it'd hurt their morale pretty bad, no? Yugito's gold eyes whitened for a second. Kid, you don't want to do that. I'm not a kid. Naruto interrupted harshly, not anymore. I didn't know you were into bondage. A lazy drawl halted Naruto in his tracks. He turned around to find his sensei up and about. Kaka-sensei, I thought you'd never get up. Naruto spoke, allowing a small smile to cross his face. Kakashi had never betrayed him, not yet at least, so he was good in Naruto's book. We can't all recover as fast as you can, Naruto. Kakashi replied lazily, crinkling his eye into a weird smile, before allowing his eye to gaze at Yugito awkwardly. Who's the kunoichi you're planning on blowing up? Kakashi asked, gazing at her aide, and noticing the Kumo emblem. She's like me, a Kakashi-sensei. She attacked me for no reason, so I defended myself, and was questioning her. Naruto explained. Hey-chan, what are you doing here, Kunoichi-san? Kakashi asked gravely, his visible eye boring into Yugito. Go fuck yourself. Yugito spat out angrily. I am not as patient as my student here, and I will not hesitate to kill you. Kakashi replied. Of course it'd be just like you Konohinin to attack a defenseless kunoichi. After all, we all heard the tall tales of your Yondaime. The instant she said that, she stared at Naruto, and realization dawned on her face. I've only seen pictures of him, but if you look a lot like him, you could be his son. We have to kill her now, Naruto, she knows. She could easily take that information to Kumo and Iwa, and we have another war on our hands. Kakashi said regretfully, looking at Naruto to see if he was prepared to do the deed. Hi sensei. Naruto replied, forming a ramp seal. We should probably take her outside before blowing her up. Kakashi quickly interjected. Probably. Naruto replied, voice dripping with sarcasm. Shaking his head, Kakashi spoke again, we could always cut her throat. Yeah, but we won't get any information out of her. And that's exactly what we need right now. So what do you suggest? Kakashi asked, staring at the blonde kunoichi. Stop staring, hentai. I'm only 14. Yugito snapped. Hurry up and kill me. Not without the information, Naruto replied evenly. He turned to Kakashi, I can break her, it'll only take a second. Naruto finished, smiling mischievously. Kakashi shook his head, his grin full of mirth though hidden by his mask. Do, as you please. Kakashi nodded towards the blonde kunoichi. Yugito's eyes whitened in fear, teal orbs quivering, as her brain raced through the possibilities of torture that the anxious blonde was promising. He's going to rape me, that sick bastard, Yugito thought to herself. All your life you've been worshipped because of what you are, I'm going to show you what it's like on the other side. Naruto growled out, as he exploded, his body flooding with chakra, making the air crisp with it. Yugito tried to cower back fearfully, but strong brittle fingers grasping her shoulders. Nanjaku Sharingan. Naruto spoke, his voice raspy with pain, and Yugito was captivated by his eyes, as they turned from green to red with two reds spinning. The two spinning continued spinning wildly, nearly out of control, entrancing her. Suddenly they came to a silent halt, no longer two, but something else entirely. The comma-shaped tomatoes formed a three-pointed pinwheel, dangerous in appearance. What is that? Yugito whispered, mainly to herself, still captivated by the blood-red eyes. Tsukuyomi, Naruto retorted, casting them over her. His left eye throbbed in pain for a second, before the two of them were taken to a landscape of the creation. Moonreader Yugito thought. This is my name, Tsukuyomi. In here time passes a bit differently than in the outside world. One day here is 1 second out in the real world. Perhaps you are lucky I haven't mastered the technique yet. Naruto commented hastily. It's just Yugito whispering, trying to find a way out of this. Don't even waste your breath. The Tsukuyomi can't be broken by anybody but the caster. Have fun living with my worst enemies. Naruto declared before vanishing. 7 years ago. A small boy woke up drenched in sweat, hands clammy, with a sinking feeling deep in his gut. Today was his birthday. How unfortunate he was to be born on the day Kyuubi was defeated. The festival was held annually to celebrate its defeat. The populace of Konoha hung out in the downtown, and drank to the foam. They smoked, and made frantic love, enthused that they hadn't been killed in the Kyuubi attack. That was the day they usually came for him. Villagers who were completely inebriated, full of rage for apparently no reason, who had nothing better but to muck up his birthday. He never had done anything to them, except maybe play harmless pranks, but that hadn't been done maliciously. It had only been done to make them recognize him. He didn't want to be forgotten. After all, he was just a 5-year-old orphan, too young to be a ninja in training, too dumb to apprentice under anybody, even if they felt enough to pity him. He knew he wasn't smart. Apparently his own family didn't want. They had deserted him, leaving him to live alone. Sandai Majiji had told him that they had died in the Kyuubi attack, but Naruto knew that it was bullshit. They hadn't wanted him, left him all wrapped up in a bundle on the doorsteps to an orphanage who kicked him out by the time he was 4. Did anyone ever love him? Would he be missed if he was gone? Not that he'd be dying anytime soon. His wounds healed automatically for some reason. Naruto knew. He tried to commit suicide plenty times enough. Fed up from the hate the villagers gave him, they despised him for no reason. He tried slitting his wrists twice, grabbing a blunt training kunai, and slicing his veins after sharpening it, yet his wounds healed immediately. He was tired of the life he lived, tired of being called a demon or monster for no reason, tired of being hated, tired of being lonely. Why did so many have a loving family, and he had to suffer alone? Get out here, you fucking monster. A loud yell tore through the room. How drunk were they? It was only 10 in the morning, and the festival was set to start for another hour or so. Jumping out of his bed deftly, he slipped on a white shirt with an orange spiral on the back, and some khaki shorts. Sliding his smooth feet into a pair of jettas, he tore across the room to grab a small training katana the Sandaime had left him. He wasn't any good with it, but if he had one attacker, perhaps he'd strike him good across the face, and evade the pursuer. Hiding in the shadows, Naruto crept to his window to take a look at how many people were outside, when a brick crashed through the window, and smashed against his temples, knocking him roughly across the room. Staggering to his feet, he duly noted that blood was dripping down the side of his head. Before he could do anything else, someone jumped through his window followed by others, and suddenly he was paralyzed with fear, unable to move. Panting, he forced his nerves to react, as his 5-year-old body flooded with adrenaline. Don't run. A hoarse voice commanded, reaching out in the dimly lit room. An arm reached out, and cold, gloved fingers found the nape of Naruto's throat. Oxygen was suddenly cut off, and Naruto wheezed for a second trying to pull away, but a strong fist slammed into his eye, forcibly clenching it shut. Tears welled in his eyes, blurring his already diminishing vision. Stumbling for a second, he took another punch to the face, making his knees buckle. You're going to die today, you little shit. One of them spoke. At least half of them were ninja. He probably wouldn't survive this encounter. Not that it would be a bad idea. With him dead, the village could finally get over whatever hate they held for him, and he'd be elsewhere, grains of ash in a tomb. Get it over, and done with, Naruto whispering sadly, closing his eyes, and waiting for the pain. Fate did not disappoint. A kunai was rammed into his neck in an attempt to slice his jugular, and blood squirted up in the air, tainting the room with its metallic taint. Before Naruto could even understand what was going on, a tanto was buried into his stomach to the hilt. Naruto opened his mouth to scream, but all that came out was a glob of blood, spraying into his attackers' faces. Falling face first to the floor, the last thing he saw before reaching blissful unconsciousness was a dog-faced Anbu mask. Opening his eyes, the little boy saw the Sandaime Hokage sitting in a chair in front of his bed. You're awake, Naruto, the Sandaime spoke, happy that Naruto hadn't died in the attack. Why, Jiji, why do they hate me so much? Naruto croaked out, his voice raspy, his body aching with pain. I don't know, Naruto, perhaps you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, Sarutobi lied, though Naruto noticed the lie quickly. I was in my apartment. Is that not where I was supposed to be? Turning his face to cover the tears, Naruto buried his face into his pillow. Why do I even try? I hate you, Jiji, for standing around and letting me get attacked so frequently. I hate Konoha. Naruto said regretfully. Seeing the broken look on Tsurutobi's face, it was then, and there where Naruto decided to put on a mask of happiness, to endure the trials the bigoted nation tossed his way. Just kidding, old man, don't worry, I'll still become Hokage. Naruto replied cheerily. A stricken look crossed Tsurutobi's face at the boy's strange response. What are you looking at, old man? You heard me, I'm going to take your job away. Naruto continued, before closing his eyes in exhaustion. An older blonde tears through the forest in order to evade his pursuers. It was his 9th birthday, so this time he was expecting it. Actually, he'd been up all morning, blue eyes scanning Konoha in an attempt to see his attackers before they could get him. But there had been no attacks all morning, so he jumped into his shorts and sandals, and slipped into a tight black tee, and headed off to school. Sure, he'd received ugly looks from Iruka, Mizuki, and a couple of other classmates, but they looked at him like that every day. Like he didn't deserve to live, and he had no idea why. Well, he did in a sense. He just recently found out about his connection with the Kyuubi no Kitsune, and apparently the Yondaime had sealed it into him at his birth. Now he knew why he was so hated, yet it aggravated him that they didn't understand. He wasn't the Kyuubi. All his life he had loved, and been eager to protect Konoha, and its residents. Hours later the total annihilation of Uzumaki Naruto began. Stop! Yugito screamed, as tears streamed down her face. His memories were playing vividly in her head, and nothing she could do could shut them. Other memories merged, and Yugito suddenly felt connected to Naruto in a way she never felt before. As a kunoichi of Kumo, it was her duty to be naturally detached to everything, and suddenly she was flooding with emotions, filling her up, as a bridge connected her to Naruto. She knew him in a sense, despite just meeting him, she absorbed something of his, and now it formed a bond. What the fuck happened? Naruto snarled, as the wrong memories began playing in his. Rather than continuing his montage of pain, memories of happy times began replaying. Memories of Sasuke and Kakashi, even the Sandaime were suddenly flooding Yugito's brain, as well as the emotions behind them. The conversation with Iruka, a hug between him and Sandaime, the forming of a bond with him, and Sasuke, him, and Ino, everything began flooding her senses. Kuzo. Naruto snapped, and cut off the, shutting it before any more could be revealed. Momochi Zabuza was dead. Bubbly, and undeniably gone. He had hung on weakly, and Haku had done everything he could to save his master, fretting about searching for herbs, yet it had been in vain. Zabuza had hung on for another day after the fight, and then his heart gave out, refusing to pump the life substance through his veins. The blonde genin had killed him. He had robbed Zabuza of his sole purpose in life, took away the only master, the only person who had ever looked at Haku, as if he wasn't worthless. How dare he? Haku had used his extensive medical knowledge to find out what happened to Zabuza. His heart had a failure, as well as suffering from some sort of chakra poisoning. It had been obvious that the blonde had hit Zabuza with sent electrical sparks through Zabuza's body, frying his nerves, and damaging the circulation of blood from the heart. Not to mention that foul red chakra had poisoned Zabuza's body, stopping Zabuza's body from healing himself. Tears slid from Haku's eyes. His master had been stolen from him. He'd pay that bastard tenfold, he'd kill him, and the rest of his raggedy team. Standing up, he grabbed the Zabuza had left behind in his death, and slid it into its large scabbard. He was far from a novice with using the Kubikiri Haucho, he simply hadn't used it, since it was Zabuza's primary weapon. But Zabuza had trained him in using it, and using it, he would be against the Leaf Nins who took his master from him. How could he live with no purpose? Knowing he failed the one person who trusted him, and thought he was worth something. He failed Zabuza, hesitated to attack, and now it was too late. Crushing his fake hunter nin mask into dust, heartless brown eyes stared at a pair of ex-Kiri. The Demon Brothers. Are you ready? Haku's voice came out cold, icily cruel, as his lips curled into a grimace. Hi. They replied. Let's go then. And with that, the innocent 14-year-old boy died, and was replaced by a cold, heartless assassin. What's wrong with Naruto? Kiba asked, sitting down in exhaustion. He and Sasuke had been sparring for the last hour in Taijutsu, and they had been pretty evenly matched, though Kiba scored the win this time around. Petting Akamaru's head, Kiba looked at Sasuke through slitted eyes. Both boys knew their place in the team. Kiba specialized in Taijutsu, and combination attacks with Akamaru, though his ninjutsu was average for a genin, and was subpar. Sasuke was decent in Taijutsu, but his ninjutsu was highly skilled, possibly on a low level, and he was nothing to scoff at. Naruto though was ridiculous. His Taijutsu was shitty, everyone knew that, and his ninjutsu was Shunin level at best. He wasn't great either, he sucked at realizing he was trapped in them, and could only perform the Tsukuyomi when using his Manjikyu. But Naruto had abilities that they didn't have, he had ridiculous stamina, and high chakra reserves to make up for his faults. Combined, they formed Konoha's heavy assault squadron, each promising in their own right. Sasuke turned to look at Kiba with onyx eyes. Naruto gets like that often. He'll have a nightmare in which his closest friend's killer hurt him, and get very defensive. All his life he was hated because of the Kyuubi, and people betrayed him a lot, even the Sandaime, so now it's so hard for him to trust. I can't fault him, I was like that when me and Naruto became brothers. He had just lost his eyes, and I lost my family, but we worked through it. Kiba, if you ever plan on getting close to Naruto, never betray across him because he will kill you if I don't first. Sasuke explained. I'm not threatening you in any form, I just need you to understand that because of Kyuubi and his treatment through childhood, Naruto's sanity suffers. I'm not going to lose another brother. Sasuke stopped, his words heavy with emotion. He hated talking about the sentimental stuff, but Kiba was part of the group whether he liked it or not. I understand, I don't know how he could defend Konoha so much if he went through that. Kiba spoke quietly, and Akamaru barked in response. Sasuke grinned at the cute puppy. It's not hard. He's going to prove them all wrong, he's going to shove them down their throats, and become Hokage. Sasuke grunted. Nodding, Kiba pulled out 2 soldier pills, tossing one to Sasuke offhandedly. Eat it, it'll replenish your chakra, I'm going to practice those Kaka-sensei taught me. Kiba replied, before popping one in his mouth, and tearing off with Akamaru in tow. Putting the rounded ball in his mouth, and biting, Sasuke nearly gagged at the offensive taste. Feeling his depleted reserves replenish, Sasuke stood up and took off, heading back to Tazuna's house to check up on Naruto. Arriving there 10 minutes later, he quietly opened the front door and stepped inside. Tsunami waved at him from the kitchen. Afternoon, Sasuke-kun. You should check up on Naruto, he's brought over a pretty visitor, a ninja like you guys. Fearing the worst, he sprinted towards the guest room where they bunked, and Sasuke entered the room, his line of sight falling onto a pretty kunoichi with a cloud head eye, tied up and wrapped in paper bombs. Kakashi was off in the back of the room reading Icha, yet listening intently. But what unnerved Sasuke the most was the intense look the kunoichi and Naruto were sharing. It didn't seem like hate. Sasuke grunted loudly and got Naruto's attention. Fushi? Sasuke demanded, glaring daggers at the kunoichi. An old man leaned back in his chair, putting down his small telescope to glare at an old student of his. Jiraiya-kun, you were caught peeping again, Anko and Kurenai are planning on castrating you, you pervert. The Sandaime reprimanded softly, a warm genuine smile on his face. Like you're any better, sensei. You were just peeping too, and I see the Icha book you're trying to cover up. Jiraiya responded, before plopping down into a seat in front of the aging leader of Konohagakure. That is beside the point. I'm glad to see you again, Jiraiya-kun. It's been 12 years, hasn't it, and you haven't been back to see an old man who once taught you. Sarutobi said regretfully. A sad smile lit up Jiraiya's face. It has been a while since I've been a sensei, but I'm probably the best one out of Team Sarutobi. Orochimaru's off trying to become immortal, Tsunadi's out there in debts, and such, I'm just perverted. Jiraiya replied offhandedly. Gomina, sensei. But after Minato's death I couldn't be in Konoha. Jiraiya continued. Sarutobi nodded sagely. Hi, but you've no idea the suffering Minato's legacy has been through your absence. Uzumaki Naruto? Jiraiya asked, concerned about marrying his features. Hi. The village turned him into a pariah, a scapegoat if you will, beating the boy halfway to death on several occasions. On his 9th birthday he had a mob hired by Danzo to kill him, while Itachi wiped out the Uchihas, and they gouged out his eyes, and everything. Sarutobi explained, saddening, as he told Jiraiya of Naruto. Jiraiya shook his head sadly, nearly glaring at his teacher. And just what were you doing to help him? He roared, nearly leaping out of his seat. Please don't be hypocritical, Jiraiya, you never cared about him before. I at least made sure he stayed alive. Sarutobi bellowed, his eyes blazing in anger. Alas, that is not the subject of our true conversation. You are here to report exactly what's been going on for the last 12 years of absence. Calming down a bit, Jiraiya began. As you know, I've been trailing Orochimaru closely for the last couple of years. Apparently he joined a group called the Akatsuki, whose sole purpose is to collect the and use it for their own purposes, killing the container in the process. After leaving the organization he formed a Togakure and became the Otakage. The main reason I'm here is because he convinced the San to join forces with him, and at the Chunin exams he plans on destroying the village and assassinating you. Sarutobi paused for a second, taking it all in. Naruto will be in danger then from the Akatsuki. Yeah, but what about Orochimaru? Jiraiya retorted. I do not fear him. He's just a boy who lost his parents and surrounded himself in so much hate, he never truly understood what strength meant. I don't have many years left in Jiraiya. I will stop Orochimaru at the Chunin exams, but I'll most likely lose my life. Whether I die or not is truly inconsequential. You are to become the next Hokage, the god named Jiraiya. Sarutobi explained. No way, that's not happening. Jiraiya retorted, but was swiftly cut off by the aging man. Yes, you said it yourself, you are the best, my best disciple. It should be fitting for you to take my place. Once you take up my mantle, you'll be able to protect Naruto like you haven't for the last 12 years, you owe him that much. Sarutobi said sagely. Swallowing the bile that rose to his throat at the image of Sarutobi dying, and him becoming Hokage, he spoke again, Sensei, why can't I train Naruto personally, and Tsunade become Hokage? Tsunade would make a great Hokage, but you are more capable than her at protecting the village. With the Akatsuki in the horizon, and the village itself, Naruto's life will be in danger. You'll be able to protect him from within the village walls. Not to mention, you're to groom him into the Rakudane position. Because of his childhood, he doesn't want to protect the village, but with you around, hopefully your charming personality will change his mind. He's strong and bright, and could very well be stronger than his father. I thought he was blind. The night of the Uchiha massacre, Uchiha Itachi gave him a set of Sharingan eyes which he can, and does use with no consequence to himself. Sarutobi replied. Any other pertinent information? Kamagakure has 2, Suna has 1, and the Kazukige's child contains the Shukaku demon which they plan on using in the attack. I was been up to some sneaky shit, but I haven't gotten too much info on them, and that's really it. Thank you Jiraiya-kun. But that's all you found out in the last 12 years? Sarutobi asked, raising an eyebrow at his student. Pretty much, all that info on Orochimaru took quite a bit, and writing Icha, as well as enjoying the pleasures of the flesh, took up a little bit of time. Jiraiya replied grinning, rubbing the back of his head. Well, as of today your 12-year vacation is over. You will not join the active duty ranks, but instead be groomed on how to become the next Hokage. The council won't put up much of a fight, nearly all the devious ones were executed so it won't be a problem. Embrace your destiny Godame Dono. Fuck you sensei, you stupid old geezer. Jiraiya responded playfully. Sarutobi grinned, and the student and master stood up before embracing in a hug. I've missed you too, Jiraiya-kun. Shizukumo Kunoichi who was trailing us. Apparently Zabuza was her target, and she hoped to get info out of us. Naruto replied sarcastically. Nice, how does she end up all tied up? Sasuke asked. We fought, she lost. Simple enough for you. Sasuke winced at the tone of voice. Any useful information, or did you fuck that up? Sasuke replied bitterly. No, actually I found out she's a container of the Nibi no Nekomata. After some torture we found out she's the daughter of the Yondaime Reikage, and that there's another, apparently the Godame Reikage's brother is one, and they've joined forces with Iwa to destroy Konoha soon enough. I guess they haven't forgotten the Third Shinobi War. Please don't kill me. Yugito begged, tears welling up in her eyes. Are you going to kill her? Can't. I did fuck up at Tsukuyomi, and something happened that linked us together emotionally. Kyuubi's warning that if I kill her, there could be negative repercussions on myself due to the link. Great, so how do we stop the link? Sasuke asked. Don't know yet. Sasuke, let's go outside for a second. Naruto offered. The sunshine is out there. The two of them stood outside, glaring at the other. I'm really sorry about Sasuke before. All night I've dreamed about you killing me, and it's made me paranoid, and I've taken it out on you when I should have talked about it. Sasuke accepted the meager apology with a grunt. I also dreamed that we're not completely out of danger in regards to Gato, so please be on your guard. Sasuke nodded. Hi. What do we do with Kunoichi? We're going to have to bring her back with us to Konoha until they stop whatever it is that links us. She saw my memories of Sasuke, the ones I hid, she read my emotions, and projected her thoughts into my head. The worst part about it is that I can do the same. The link is what caused me to find out about Iwa's plan, and I saw her memories. Well, you had a better day than I did. I watched Azuna for a bit, but they're waiting for a shipment to get in from Konoha. Apparently someone destroyed some of their supplies vital to the building of the bridge. So we're going to be stuck here a bit longer. From what Tazuna said, the supplies won't get here for another 2 weeks. That leaves us 2 months to train for the Chunin exams. Sasuke explained. Fuck it, Nami isn't too bad. It'll be like vacation once we take out Gato. I really want to kill that guy for some reason. Naruto smirked. You think Zabuza will be back? Sasuke asked, staring into his best friend's green eyes. Bloodlust tainted the air. Blood flew into the air, as Naruto suddenly found himself impaled by a large. Eyes rolling into the back of his head, Naruto blacked out. Cold, dark brown eyes stared into Sasuke. He took my purpose away, so now I shall take yours. The stranger spoke, forming a set of hand seals. In front of Sasuke stood the hunter nin that had snatched up Zabuza's body. Before he could react and grab Naruto, there was a cruel cold breeze, and a dome of ice mirrors surrounded the 3 shinobi. Sasuke ordered the thought of his best friend dead, and blood-red Sharingan eyes replaced his black ones. Clutching a kunai, he charged at the Kiranin, ready to take his life. There is no chance of survival. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel.